Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Call this meeting to order at 10:19 a.m. Mel, can you say a prayer for us, please?
Aho, Mona, your Heavenly Father, come to you again today to ask for your blessings, that you take care of my people. Also ask that you lay your hand upon the ones in recent mourning, help them come out of their mourning and the things that they're having hard times with, so that they can live day to day in a good way. Also ask that you also please bestow a special blessing upon us here at this table, that we once again come together and make all the important and wise decisions for our people. Bless the soldiers out there. Bless the ones incarcerated. Each and every one of us that are alien physically. Oh, amen.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Mel. We have the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
One motion second to adopt the agenda as presented. Discussion? Any objections? No objections. Motion passed 7-0-0. Reading of the minutes 11/26/18, mid-monthly meeting.
Move it.
Second.
Been motion second to approve minutes of 11/26/18. Motion second. Discussion. Any objections? No objections. Motion passed 7-0-0. Reading of the minutes 11/29/18. Treasurer's report.
Mr. Chair, on the last page of those minutes, what was the final resolution to Letha Bass's loan request and land sale? Discussion, no more action taken, or no action?
No action.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair, the minutes of that meeting?
Second.
Been motion second to approve the minutes of 11/29/18. Discussion. Any objections? No objections. Motion passed 7-0-0. Ratify 5 signature. Adopt resolution 19-36 Red Nose Day Fund.
Move it. Adopt resolution number 19-36, the Red Nose Day Fund.
Do you move it?
Yeah.
A second.
Been motion and second to adopt resolution 19-36 Red Nose Day Fund. Discussion. Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0. Ratify 5 signature, adopt resolution 19-37, support Winnebago Comprehensive Health Systems 2019 Rural Health Network Development Planning Grant.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Been motion and a second to adopt resolution 19-37. Discussion?
I got something. As it pertains, it talks about develop, implement a home health care model uniquely designed for Winnebago elderly, disabled, and adults in need of personal and protective services. Joy, are you here?
Yeah.
I was just wondering about our nursing home project and how does this blend in with that?
This will actually help support that effort, in that as those that are wanting to stay home, they can, and it'll be a natural progression then for them to be able to use the nursing home with skilled nursing care at that point in time. So it'll help facilitate that, and if nothing else, it'll be another venue for us to start building and getting some more solid numbers, which, as you know, we've struggled with what is the right number for that nursing home. So as we work through this process, I think that will help solidify that data and those numbers for this other. So I'm hoping that it'll be a bit of a double duty type of thing in promoting both of those pieces in those projects.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, would veterans fit into this category?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Is this separate, or you work in conjunction with our senior program?
This will, because it's a planning piece, yes, it'll work with the seniors, it'll work with the veterans, anybody that's chronically ill or in need, so anybody that would be disabled in some way and needing home health care services, that this would work together with that. And the senior centers, theirs is primarily personal care services, so it'll definitely blend with that and hopefully make all of that work a little more smoothly. And because we're looking at building a network, we'll be and as they're going through the assessment process for the healthcare office, they are finishing a planning document. They'll take that particular planning document that they've been working on for that accreditation, and we'll overlay that with what Northeast Nebraska is doing the exact same thing right now from their public health perspective. We'll lay both of those together to be able to see what does Northeast Nebraska offer, what do we offer, where are the gaps in services, and what things are duplicated, so that we're offering a coordinated offering of services. So it's really about building a network of services and making certain that those communications are in place. And it will grab the data that we were talking about, Curtis, in order to support that nursing home as a part of that.
I think this kind of fits in with the PHN. They've often talked to me about
That's what
they
their
make
model is.
recommendations for their people that are their clients, and their recommendations can't ever be followed through with because they don't have something like this.
Exactly, and that's what this will do, is it'll lay the framework and the planning so that we can identify those
That's
gaps
what we'll
exactly,
cost
Kenny, and devise how do we get those services covered for individuals in the community.
Great.
Any further discussion, questions? Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0. New business, adopt resolution 19-38, approving submission by HCCDC of a proposal to the Community Development Block Grant Program for Indian Tribes and Alaska Native Villages.
Gee, Brian, you're really going to town, huh?
Yep. Norma is really, we're just applying for Norma.
Oh,
Yeah,
boo, no, I'm saying that.
yeah. So it was Norma's idea to do the, build the 3 triplexes specifically for veterans out in the Kelly property. And since we've been in the rotation of, between the tribe and HCCDC and the Winnebago Housing and Development Commission applying for the ICDBG opportunity, it was her turn to propose a project. We actually are the applicant because we are the eligible CDBO or CBDO organization to do the application, but the funds will be passed through to Norma for the triplex project.
Excuse me, when you say her turn, who else is in line?
The tribe and HCCDC.
And Norma's program?
Right, yeah.
And they turned it over to you this year. They gave their turn to you.
No, it's her project. We're just doing that, we're writing the grant for her and we'll administer the grant, but the funds will all go through to the Winnebago Housing and Development Corporation. So it still counts as her project even though we're applying for it and we'll administer the grant for her.
I don't understand that part.
Okay. So her organization will also provide all the match requirements, required match funds and things for the project.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. But nobody can apply without the endorsement of the tribal council for these funds. So that's why the resolution needs to come from the tribal council, even though we're technically the grantee and the Winnebago Housing and Development Commission is technically going to be the recipient of the funds to construct their project.
Okay, but you don't show in here how we're gonna match.
You don't have to provide any match.
Oh,
It will all be provided by the Winnebago Housing and Development Corporation.
okay.
And we have,
What?
we have the match.
She's got it.
What is the match?
Oh, sorry, it's $266,667. And for this program, you're not technically required to provide match, but if you do, it increases your scoring under the leveraging category. And there's a competitive grant process, so it's important to get all the points you can. So she's providing the maximum amount of match needed to get the full leveraging scoring for the grant competition.
Okay, so there was a match, but housing did that.
Right.
Did that match.
Right, yeah. And that's in the bullet points, Kenny, under the now therefore be it resolved section. It's the second bullet point.
When's the grant award?
When? We don't know. The application's due the first week in January. We expect it to be out before the end of the fiscal year,
Okay.
the federal fiscal year.
When do you expect to break ground?
Probably not until next fall.
You got a timeline?
Pardon me?
Timeline on the completion date?
Yeah, it would need to be completed within 2 years, all 3 of them. So they're looking at fall of 2019 with the whole thing, all 3 of them being completed and ready for occupancy by the fall of 2021.
Okay.
Boy, that sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Well, that sounds good.
21.
You notice you get the grant.
Yeah.
Within 2 years, it'll be done. That's good.
I don't want to circumvent the board, but the board is on board and approves of this. The housing board, I assume.
Yeah, that was in the plan. Veterans
Dinner.
housing.
I'll make sure.
Now Norman was here Friday and explained all the.
I thought
Oh,
so,
sure.
yeah.
Oh,
All right. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 19-38.
So moved.
Second?
Been motion second to adopt resolution 19-38. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0.
Thank you.
New
We'll get it
business,
done.
adopt resolution 19-39, 2019 Nebraska Crime Commission Community-Based Juvenile Service Aid Grant.
We have a summary sheet. Did you get that? Did you get the summary sheet that we prepared for you? This grant is to the Nebraska Crime Commission for their community-based juvenile services aid. And what it'll do, it'll put a case manager up at the YCIC. They have a position that they've been using at this point in time that has put the policies and procedures together. And that funding will run out at the end of June of this year. This will then create a new position of case manager to follow through on that particular work. There is no, there is a small match amount. We had quite a bit of discussion with the tribal court on how they would come up with that, and they will be using the YCIC director's salary that's already in place and already approved. A portion of that salary will be used to cover the match requirement for this grant. It comes out, I believe, between 8 and 10% of JR's time, which is an appropriate amount for supervision.
The position that you referred to, do we have that in place now?
It's a similar position, but it's not the same position. This new position will have fewer responsibilities. It's a lower level position as a case manager from what, as I understand it, of the person who's been in there now and setting up the policies and procedures that goes along with this particular work. That's how they've described it to me.
There's funding in there.
And this is just for just under 1 year. It's 11 months. So we figured it would take 30 days to hire the new person, and then 11 months. So it's a short-term funding here.
I think, I guess, some of the things, I guess, in regard to YCIC, you know, that's, some, funds directed for the intervention center director salary and friends and an existing expenditure. And if, I guess, in looking over the budget, and Alan's got a meeting coming up where they've been meeting with the program directors and trying to come in. He had all the directors submit alternative budget to try to get within, the benchmark.
Right.
And trying to do this, and then it might have to go, or we might have to do a reduction in force somewhere along the line. So, the YCIC was a project that the tribal council inherited from the previous table, and we supported that since 2015. And then last year we gave them 3 months to try to find some funds to support their workforce, and they extended that to 6 months, and then we just carried them through the end of the year. And we still haven't, written any grants or gotten any funds, and we've been way more than a accommodating to that program, but it's, and then law enforcement comes in here, they're not really, they don't really keep anybody at night. But we've got reports, and where's the officer? Well, he's transporting a juvenile.
Oh.
But, those are the things that we have to ask, as far as that. So I guess that would be discussed in our meetings now, with our finance department.
It's important to know with this one, with your remarks there, Jim, that we are also in the process of preparing an application, another one to the Nebraska Crime Commission for their enhancement program. That one includes, as I understand it, for another position up at YCIC for the enhancement with the Crime Commission. Yes,
Did you say one position?
one position. That one's this community-based one is a little more assured set of funding. As I understand it, the enhanced application that they're working on is funds that didn't get used before, so that's like a leftover, so you really don't know how much is available type of thing. It's a pretty iffy set of funds to go after, but that's what they wanted to go after, so. It's a tough program up there to find funding for.
I guess, but under the direction of the court, and then as far as our code, our code reads that every person under 19 years of age should be in school. Okay, and then right now they do their daily census at the school, and they come up with those that are not that are absent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they called in or anything like that, and they write that down, and they give that report to the juvenile officer, and he takes that report, and then when it comes up again, you know, I don't know what the procedure is from there. At one time, when these tribal codes were enforced, that would require a home visit to see
Right.
what the problem is. And then any more violations, then there would be, parents would be brought into court. And so, but I don't see that we're doing any of that anymore. We're not enforcing our own codes.
Oh, but we do have someone that's supposed to be doing that, don't we?
I don't know.
That's my understanding what Randy's
Well, I
role
don't know.
is.
The ones that are working, the ones that get involved in the system, and they set them into the diversion program, but they kind of limited, that grant ran out. And that wellness court was,
That one ran out.
so that one ran out, so then, I don't really know where that is, and we have to sit down and talk with the judges and Barbara and that whole team as far as their effort, the counseling that they did, and getting these kids back in school. So I remember sometimes they would take the parents and they would have to spend the night over in Macy because of repeated violations. And that was some of the alternatives that those parents were held responsible. I don't know if we're doing anything anymore. I don't have any kind of data. But what's happening with those kids in court?
There was a comment at the last, it wasn't a school board meeting, it was a joint meeting with the council, that person is doing like possibly 3 jobs. So if you don't have enough time to concentrate on attendance like that and stuff and enforce it, I don't know.
I would just like to say, that was Jim was pertaining to. When my daughter had an accident, broke her arm. She was home, but they did come to my house. You know, so I mean.
So they are following through on some, is what
Well, at
you're
least you know, for me they did.
Uh-huh.
Someone showed up. I signed some papers to that, so for the program. I don't know if they go to any other, parents or anything. I don't know that, but that part of it, they showed up at my place.
Well, I guess the clarity between the positions over there in court as far as, is that a juvenile probation officer, where they've already been in the system, so they can sign? Or is it, at one time it was funded under JLM, truancy officer. I don't know if they're still funded.
Joey, I'm not sure if you're privy to it, but do you know what the total budget is for
For this one?
not just this application?
Oh,
but
for
the-
YCIC? No, I do not.
Okay.
I've looked through the goals that they have in their recently presented juvenile services plan, because they had just updated that. So I've gone through that quickly. I haven't studied it, so I'm not gonna be able to confidently answer any questions. But I have looked through it, looking through what their priorities were and that type of thing. The priorities fit to work on this. But I wish that they were more strongly matched, put it that way. But it does make sense on what they have in their juvenile services plan, but and I'd like to go over that with them, but I haven't had an opportunity to do that. Just in the last week and a half did I get a copy of that. So.
Kenny?
Is their grant writing program outside of yours?
The court has Trish Ward, who has been working on grants for the court. Trish will initiate those and work with Barbara. I review those and edit, and helping kind of mentor her through that process. She's kind of new at grant writing, and so they tend to need a little massaging, let's put it that way.
Do they turn to you for that then, or
Yes,
no? Do they?
yes. And that's how I became acquainted with the juvenile services program, because I needed to have that, and because they refer to in this application of that and making certain that it aligns. And so I need to make certain that those items that they're referring to are aligning, especially since the juvenile service plan is on file and waiting to be approved by the state of Nebraska. So I need to make certain that it's in alignment.
Is there a deadline for the submission?
This one is actually due on the 14th.
How will we table it?
And the evidence-based one will be
There's been a
coming.
motion to table. Is there a second? Been motion to table. Is there a second?
Discussion.
Been motion second to table. Any discussion?
Why? Why are we gonna table it?
We're looking at the whole budget throughout all our programs. We're scrutinizing every program because of the deficit that we're faced with, the $4 million deficit that we have to deal with. So we are scrutinizing each and every program.
That don't make sense to me.
Any other discussion or questions?
I have a question, Chair. Is there anything more that you would like me to get for information for you on this that would be beneficial?
Did you say that needs to be in by mid-month?
by the 14th.
Okay.
So, you can just change that on a date. Then the way that the system is now, okay, Barbara and her as a bailiff, the court administrator, Lisa, and then Randy is in there, I think he's juvenile probation officer. And then when they, and then that youth detention facility, okay, when they pick up a minor, and then they take them up there, and sometimes they use, if they can't find the parents or a relative to take them in, and then they're either sent off to what are they saying now? Sioux City, I think they're in, yeah, and some of those ones they had to go up to I think Fort Yates, huh? That's the only one that had that provide for youth for juveniles. And then so then when they bring them back down to court, so then they set up the meetings with their staff to try to work with the families and address the situation. So if the what the recommendations that comes from the finance department, on what can be done with that program, it's I think the program's running like $750,000 a year. That program,
At least.
and they haven't. There's that one of their directives for continuing that program last year, like I said, was for them to go out and go after grants. They haven't fulfilled that obligation. If it's up to the table as far as meeting with the finance and what became of the meeting that they had with the directors. There were some of the directors that didn't provide those amended budgets, so then he was just going to try to come up with them and do it himself. Some of them turned in those modified budgets and some of them didn't. So they're in that dialogue right now. He's trying to reduce that deficit.
Mr. Chairman, I understand what you're saying, that we're telling that program, go out and get the money that you need to operate your programs. That's what we keep saying at the table, so you can run up there. Then you turn around and you table an application, a grant application that's going to bring in some money. What don't I see in this picture? Explain it to me so I can vote different than no.
That they're bringing in $3,872.
Does it have to be more than that to qualify? Do we say how much? Do we say how much your grant should be, and how much you should go after? If you're gonna leave $3,800 on a table because
For one position for 11 months.
This is one that we can go back to the state of Nebraska for this position again. But it's 1 year at a time.
Linda, Al, thinking about having a meeting on the budget.
We were looking at trying to get these things finalized here this month. It's still working, it's still a document that's being worked over.
The other thing that we have in place, we just started the dialogue, for your information, is there's a SAMHSA grant that directs towards suicide and substance abuse. It's called Native Connections. We have a Native Connections grant right now with the health department. That we have another 2 years left on it. I visited with Mona to know whether or not we should be going after it again because it's suicide and substance abuse prevention. She felt that it didn't make sense because of what we had going on currently. And that's where they're doing the trauma-informed care, the scientific community planning and working with first responders. What was shared with me last week is that they were looking at cutting the position of the individual at YCIC that does the assessments. And so we're actually in the process and the dialogue on Friday in reviewing the Native Connections SAMHSA grant to see if we could fill that position with that SAMHSA grant. That would be a 5-year effort. It would, what we were looking at, and this is just the discussions on Friday, was to cover the person who does the assessments at YCIC. And we felt that there was also a need to have somebody that's doing those assessments for the Human Services Department at the same time. SAMHSA requires that we have a project coordinator for the Native Connections project. So it would actually be 2 full-time positions that were just starting the planning process on that at the present time. But that would be another position at YCIC that we're looking at funding. We've had fairly good success in going after the SAMHSA grant, so I would feel that it's probably a 75% chance that we would receive that Native Connections grant if we go after that one. That one is due before the end of this month, so you know. Normally, like I said, I had looked at it, I set it aside, not knowing that. It was shared with me last week that they were looking at cutting the person who does the assessments up at YCIC, and so it's like, how do we do this? What makes sense in building that? So that's the only other thing around YCIC that we're looking at working, so you know, aware of that.
Mr. Chair, are we so well to do that we can just sneeze at a 3,000 whatever grant? Are we that well to do that we can do that? It don't make no difference how small it is. If it begins to build up and keep a program going for our young people, I don't know why we would table it. I just don't understand that. If we're going to table this so that we can scrutinize all the other programs, let's go back and undo all of these other grant approvals that we just made. That's my comment, Mr. Chair. Call for the vote.
No other discussions or questions?
You haven't answered Jimmy's question yet.
Well, it's actually more than 3,000, it's 37,000, 34,000.
Are we that rich that we can just say, no, we don't want that grant, it's too small, or it won't help the cause?
I don't know if they're.
JR,
Sorry, I was.
need to come up here.
Came down just in case you guys have any questions. I was told to kind of be on standby for the meeting because the grant was coming up for approval. So any questions? I seen it for topic, so I came on down. Anything I can clarify or any questions? So the State Crime Commission grant, those are funds that as long as we put in an application and we keep up with our juvenile service plan, that's money we get every year. So before this position this grant has funded a therapist, which I think that's part of our enhancement for this year to try and supplement, because we do have a big appropriations budget. So we're trying to find different grants where we can apply for to be able to keep our assessment unit going, so we can lower the cost of our appropriations. Currently, it funds our diversion program. So our diversion program, like our first-time offenders, some of our truancy kids that we were talking about, it funds that diversion officer. So we have somebody who can track those kiddos, so they don't have to go through the normal juvenile court process. We can divert them using different services that we have at the YCIC, either an assessment evaluation, ongoing individual therapy, alcohol and other drug classes, if that applies. I mean, the whole gamut of all the services that we provide at the YCIC, that's what's at the disposal of that diversion officer. So part of this grant is for that diversion officer for next year, so we don't have to try and find other funds. This is our means of finding other funds to sustain the program. So as long as we keep up that juvenile service plan and we continue to apply for this grant, we can continually get every single year. And that's what's on the table for today.
Yeah, I guess, looking at your budget and thinking $750,000.
For it's not quite that high. Overall, I think we're, with the cuts that we're making last week, I think we got under 500 for appropriations.
Well, I guess, as far as trying to reduce the budget, and then as far as your service plan and then your assessments and how you're working with getting the juveniles, addressing those clients that come through the door, and then also then looking at the holding tank, the holding facility. The numbers just don't work. There's very few that you hold over. A lot of times we call law enforcement and they say, well, they're out of town, we're transporting a juvenile. Either Fort Yates or Sioux City or Wayne or Madison or wherever.
So the kiddos that the BIA deems necessary for detention, yes, those kids are going up to Sioux City, Standing Rock. They send them all over the place. That was the reason for why CIC was trying to keep our kids here. So we continue to do that. We don't send every single kiddo. Can't find the parents, we hold on to them in a holdover unit. We have 5 kids up there right now as we're talking. And we have had, we just released one on Friday. So we had 6 for a few days. But for the past month and a half, we've had 2, 3, 4 kids up in our holdover unit. And that's with our new billing agreement with Child and Family Services to hold on to their kiddos. So we are looking for means to be able to sustain our program. That's one of them, is so CFS doesn't have to send our kids anywhere else. We can hold on to them. When the shelter's at capacity, we take their overflow. And right now we have 5 of their kiddos.
Good. I guess, then what's the reimbursement rate from BIA?
From BIA? BIA doesn't, because we're not a lock facility, BIA doesn't want to work with us. They've come down, they toured our facility, they said it's awesome, but they're not willing to do any kind of billing agreement. They said because we're not a lock facility.
What if you were?
What's that?
What if you were? How much money would that bring in? Would it sustain your program? How much more revenue would that bring into your program? Bottom line.
I think they pay Sioux City $100 a day for a kiddo for detention. The reason they send them to Standing Rock and all that is because they don't have to pay. What are we spending? The tribe doesn't spend anything. The BIA pays for detention. So we don't have to pay for detention. The BIA pays. That's why they send the kids up to Standing Rock and all over the country, is because they don't have to pay for that if they send it to a BIA facility. Now, if they go to Sioux City up to Woodbury, or if they go to Cherokee, they got to pay about $100 a day. So that's why they send our kids all over the place, because it saves them money.
So if we had a detention, if that became a detention, would that sustain your program?
It would definitely help, yes.
So why didn't you go that way? Are you guys a juvenile court program or a treatment program? Which one is it?
We're a juvenile court program
Okay, there you
that
go.
can
All right.
also offer treatment services. The YCIC doesn't have a mold to fit in right now.
So you're trying to do, you're jumping into two things. And you're triplicating, duplicating. We have behavioral health. We have that program. We put tons of resources toward that. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, the bottom line is sustaining that program. Where are we going to come up with the thousands of dollars to make that work? $38,000 isn't nothing to sneeze at, grant you that. But it's really kind of a minute and minuscule amount for what you are trying to do over there. And really, really late in the game.
So far, that's kind of
what I'm getting at is we have resources in our available at our treatment. We have people there. We're paying those people. Those are professional people in our clinical mental health field at the hospital. Why are we paying for that over there when we have it over here already? That's resources going out. So that's what I'm trying to show you. And you're asking for a substantial amount to make this program work. And we're running into a real problem here on where I'm sitting. And so we have a tribal councilman that's questioning that, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at how are we going to make these things work. When you're trying to step into both worlds, what you either are one or the other. Are you going to be a treatment facility for youth, or are you going to be a juvenile detention? What are you going to do? You're trying to do two things. It's pretty convoluted, and it's coming at a great cost for the resource. So where I'm sitting, I'm looking at how are we going to make that fit. That's the reality of it.
So I guess to answer that, we write grants like we have at the table. We're looking at all kinds of other grants. That's what I was told. I was told to look for other resources outside tribal appropriations. So that's why Trisha's on board. That's why we continue to look for grants, so it can lower our appropriations. That's our goal. That's high on my priority list. That's what I continue to do. That's why we have a billing agreement with Health and Human Services, so we can generate extra funds. And the whole mold of the YCIC, yes, we're a juvenile court program, and we also provide services. Because our clientele that come through juvenile services, they need that type of help.
Which
That's our
again is a
approach.
duplication of services, and we're already putting resources toward that, which would probably come at a big cost savings to us if you either did one or the other.
I think they go hand in hand, so I think you should look into it deeper into their program so you know what you're talking about. Because I don't think you have to do it.
So this amount here you guys are requesting, it's going to be an applied grant to Nebraska Crime Commission. And then the 38 is already matched by your salary. Right.
The 38 match, there's a match in most grants, but yeah, Nebraska Crime Commission, it's always a 10% match.
So this is kind of just, you just want to apply for a grant.
Yes, that's all that is us trying to apply for a grant, yeah.
Doesn't track anything.
we're looking for funds for the tribe. That's what that is. So I mean, we can always have a separate meeting to discuss the particulars about the YCIC. But I think what's at the table right now is a grant application, so we can find more resources to sustain our program.
Okay, any further discussion or questions?
Well, I guess, you know, hoping for them to, approve the grant, starting to go after grants, just go ahead and let this move forward. We can always modify if we do, organizational, change in that, but we just notify the grant, funding, crime commission to, approve that, modification.
It can be as a modification, or if the worst case scenario, that if, and forbid, that something would happen that YCIC isn't there, that we couldn't do the match, that when they get ready to make the award, which is 4 or 5 months down the road from now, we can say things have changed and not accept the award. That's it, or another option that we have available to us.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion or questions? Been motion second to table the resolution. Are there any objections to the motion? Okay. Call for a vote in favor? No? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion failed.
Thank you, Council.
The chair will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 19-39. Move it? Okay. Been motion and second. There's been a motion. Is there a second to adopt resolution 19-39?
Second.
Been motion and second. Discussion?
For the viewing audience, I'm saying just for the viewing audience, if you could explain what the resolutions are instead of just the numbers, so they'll know what you're talking about, what you're voting on. Thanks.
Tanya, when we started this, I identified the resolution number, and it's the 2019 Nebraska Crime Commission Community-Based Juvenile Service Aid Grant.
Thank you, but after all the long discussions, people kind of forget about what that meant. So if you could kind of explain it as you're asking for the vote. Thank you.
Any other discussions? Questions? Any objections?
You can count me out on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The last one.
I would abstain.
Any objections to the motion? No objections. Motion passed. 6-0-0. None on old business, none on tribal council items. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move it, Mr. Chair.
Been motion, is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Been motion, second to adjourn. Any objections? No objections. We're adjourned at 11:14. Thank you, Council.